Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tom Munns. I am now the executive director of Idaho Ripple Effect. And it is a nonprofit that I started not too long ago. I felt like I really wanted to stay in the game, but wanted to try to do things a little bit differently. And so part of that process was creating the nonprofit. And one part of the process inside that process is to be able to give a tribute to the leaders of Idaho, people that have focused on a particular issue, people that have been in a certain area, and focusing on the issues relating to city council, school boards, commissioners, what have you. Also joining with the rest of us in the state and all that. I the other part of it is that we've lost people in the movement and the movement has changed. And one of the things that I wanted to address with this is to be able to make sure that we offered a tribute to Idaho leaders so that the people that either were involved or are currently involved and people that might pass away that they're not forgotten. I think we remember Jack Stewart and several others, and we'll learn about Wayne here in a minute. Have are gone. They've passed from us now, and it kind of makes it more important to me that we sort of maybe honor him in a way that we can in my way, and talk about him and what you guys were doing in Emmett. So I'm joined by Jan Montano. Jan, thank you so
Hi,
much.
thank you.
I'm so glad you decided to do this with me. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know it's been a while.
Yeah, it
It's been a
has.
while.
Well, I have a bunch of trick questions for you.
Okay,
Not really. And
I'm ready.
I know you are. I figured you were. You'd be disappointed and find out none of them are trick questions at all.
I know.
Anyway, so a lot of it is people have this idea that people in the liberty movement are radical nutbags, kooky, wacky, conspiracy theorists and things. And the other part of it was I want people that are in the movement now that are just moving here, or people that are from a different persuasion that have awakened to where we are now, or for whatever reason, to be able to get a really good idea about who we are. And not only just who we are in the fight, right? Oh, that's Jan from Emmett. Everybody knows Jan from Emmett, right? Um, but to be able to take us back a little bit about where you came from. And so, Jan, did you grow up here?
No, I grew up in San Francisco, born and
Oh,
raised,
you didn't say Bay Area. Why is that?
because I grew up in the city.
So people don't. So you have to tell me this. And sorry to detract, but I'm hearing I now work for the Meridian Watch Repair place.
Uh,
So I'm fixing watches now, and the clientele that we're meeting there all come from California, most of
uh,
them, right? But
yeah,
when the ones that say they're from the San Francisco area, I guess, or they say Bay Area, I'm
you
like,
say Bay Area.
Bay Area is not a place, though. It's not a
No.
city. So what does that mean to you?
Oh, it's just a conglomerate of all the cities around San Francisco, Sausalito, Oakland, just, everybody.
So I should just say I'm from Oahu
Yeah,
and
that's
or
it.
Hawaii, right? They can guess what island I'm from, right? Or what
Right.
town in those islands I'm from. Okay, I always thought that was a little weird. They're like Bay Area. I'm like, that's not really a place. But
Well,
anyway,
it's like everyone saying they're from LA. It doesn't mean they're from the city of LA. It means they're from the Valley area or South Orange County. It just,
right. But
yeah.
yeah, well, we all know Orange County used to be a little bit better than East LA, so I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah. Well, it used to be conservative, but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So you came from San Francisco City,
Yes, I
right?
did.
Wow.
My
And
parents were Roosevelt Democrats, so I grew up a Democrat.
that is good to hear. It really is, though. People need to understand that people can change,
I
right?
did. I did. I did.
Wow. So were they politically active then, do you think?
We always discuss politics. First time Wayne came over to my house, my parents had a discussion about politics, and Wayne was floored because his family never discussed anything.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, my family, we were very outspoken.
some of those things just they continue on when you're older too, don't they?
Well, yeah, kinda.
So so you so you had some Democrat parents. That was pretty cool.
I
Did you
know.
ever get the opportunity to convert them to some degree?
No, no, my mom and dad stayed Democrats all the way.
Wow, and FDR Democrats at that.
Yes, they were, and Kennedy Democrats, the era. They
Right. Wow.
didn't like any of the Republicans, Nixon, Reagan. Nope.
I look back at it and I can't blame them now.
I know. If only we knew then what we know now.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So your family stayed behind then in San Francisco when you
Mhm.
moved out here?
Yep.
So tell
Oh,
us,
well, actually, almost everybody's gone. I mean, I have another brother that lives here in Emmett, and then I have a brother in Vegas and one in Salt Lake area.
are they Democrats?
No,
R-
conservatives.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Well, that's pretty good.
yeah, yeah. And my sons too are conservative, so
So you
yeah,
did something right.
yeah,
That's good. I know I always say I can pass from this earth. I think I can do okay. You know,
yeah,
with the
yeah.
legacy that I've passed on, I feel pretty good about it.
Yep.
So you were in San Francisco. What was your childhood like in San Francisco? Was it good?
Well, I went to integrated schools, so I never thought anybody was different from anybody else. And my high school was 90% Chinese, and I don't know why it was that way, but it was. And so just a lot of different cultures and a lot of different people, and it was kind of exciting. It was busy.
So you're gonna just destroy the whole, racist conservative thing right now, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
I know, I came from Hawaii, man. I mean, nobody was white, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and I went to public school. How could I even have been remotely racist when, some of my best friends were every other thing that you could even
Mhm.
imagine?
Yep.
It's amazing to me.
Yep.
Because I know I've gone to San Francisco with my mom. She loved to shop when I was a baby, and it seems like I just remember how clean it was, and
Oh,
San Francisco was a beautiful city,
was,
right? Right.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
So
really sad.
so have you been back since?
No. Well, we went back, when my parents, they lived in San Mateo, which is south for a while. And then they moved to Colorado to be close to my brother, my
Hmm.
older brother. But um, I wouldn't go back now, not
Yeah.
in for any reason. It's really
Yeah.
sad. I mean, I look online and there's a guy that he's got a foreign accent. I can't think of his name, but he travels around the city and he films everything and he shows Fisherman's Wharf what it looks like, downtown what it looks like now. And it's like, oh my gosh, how
Yeah.
sad.
I
I mean, I
followed.
used to take public school transportation. I mean, I got on a bus and went, you know, 4 miles to a grammar or middle school, and then I went to a high school. So I was always on public transportation. So, and
Well,
now I don't think I'd get on public transportation.
I wouldn't. So what made you so when you had your parents that were Democrats, at what point did you sort of make a shift into seeing that that probably wasn't the best political affiliation?
Um, wow. I think when Clinton came along,
Good reason.
yeah, and I don't know. I just felt like I realized I was watching the news and I saw this man being interviewed and I didn't realize I'm sorry about my phone doing that. Hang on.
I can't hear it.
Um,
It's
you couldn't
perfect.
hear it?
Not at
Okay.
all.
Well, anyway, so I started talking back to the guy on TV and I realized he was a Democrat and that kind of threw me.
Wow.
So, and then the LA riots came along and I saw those Koreans on the rooftop armed.
Yeah.
And I said to Wayne, who he went into shock, I think, when I said, I'm thinking about I should get a gun. We should get a gun. He's like, hallelujah inside, you know. So
Wow,
yeah. So yeah. So
that's amazing.
we have a friend who taught me about gun safety, taught our boys. So we were like, and then we homeschooled, and that was our PE class was going to the range on Mondays.
There you go. Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. We'd come home and clean the guns and sit around the kitchen table, and it was really a bonding thing with the family.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it
So
was.
when you met Wayne, so God bless him. Anyway, so how did you guys meet?
Wayne was in the Navy, and he was on the USS Ranger, and it docked in Hunters Point, which is in San Francisco. And I needed a job. I was going to community college, so I got a job being a tutor they arranged for the soldiers to, or the Navy guys, to take college courses. So that's how Wayne and I met.
Wow, and you were a Democrat and he wasn't?
We never
You
discussed
never talked about
politics.
it.
No,
Wow, that's odd because you guys would be killing each other now.
no, actually, we always agreed pretty much we were on the same page politically as the years went by.
For sure. Oh, but I was just relating it to all the division now. People are getting divorced and families are
Yeah,
breaking up because people support Trump or whatever. It's just some
yeah,
crazy
it's
stuff, isn't it?
crazy.
Well,
It's just
yeah.
crazy. It's
So, when you guys moved here, so you guys got married
in San Francisco.
in San Francisco, and then you guys decided to pack it all up and move to Idaho, huh?
Well, we went to Southern California. Wayne was hired as an air traffic controller because he
Oh,
did that in the Navy.
he
So,
did?
yeah, yeah, and
Wow.
he was fired by Reagan for going out on strike. And
Man, I wish I could talk to him now about all the airplane stuff.
oh, me too. I wish he was here because I'd like to say, well, what happened over here and what happened there? But he's
I
not here.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Wow.
yep.
So,
So then when he got fired, he laid around on the couch for a few months. No, he was involved in the Good and Welfare Committee for the local union. So
Mm,
he helped get jobs for people. And when they all got their jobs and he wasn't needed, he realized he didn't have a job. So at the time, we had a small antique store that we ran. Um, Wayne worked and I was a stay-at-home mom with the kids. So we were open, on the weekends. And someone came in and said, your glass is chipped here that you're selling. There's a guy in Ontario, California, which was not too far from us, that does repairs. So Wayne went, he got to know the guy. And when he got fired and didn't have a job, he asked Jim, he said, could I apprentice with you? I think it'd be really interesting to learn the craft. And the
mm,
guy said, yeah, yeah. So Wayne apprenticed for a while. He did get paid, not a whole lot, but
mm,
started doing antique shows. And anyway, we just the man that he was apprenticing with, Jim, he and his friend, they did a small antique show, and they would just go and sit and collect the glass and then take it and repair it and bring it back to the next show. And this gal said, because I was there when she said, it's too bad you don't have equipment, you could do it here. And Jim and Wayne went, whoa. So they investigated having equipment. And so the next thing you knew, we were a mobile repair service going to antique shows and all that. So that's what we did for 40 years, darn near. And
wow.
yeah, and then we realized that the the shows, the antique market changed.
Mm,
9/11 really put the kibosh on a lot
mm,
because there was the money dried up and the interest in antiques was gone. I mean, we had people that would collect, ladies would collect pink glass for, Valentine's and blue glass for Easter. And it was just, they entertained back then, and women don't do that anymore. So
mm.
there. we just, yeah, I know it's sad. We just had a change in the collector was gone, and it was people just coming in to buy something because it was interesting to look at. They really didn't care about the provenance, the history. They just liked the way it looked. So changing, and Martha Stewart contributed to the downfall,
Mhm.
and Wayne said one time she had done a program on little lamps, miniature kerosene lamps, and she wanted them electrified, so she'd be drilling holes in the bottom of the lamp. Well, when you drill a hole in an antique, it takes away the value. And Wayne would be like telling these ladies, when I drilled a hole in the bottom of this little lamp and you've lost the money. And they're like, I don't care. I don't care. So, yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
I know. So the antique market became a decorator market. So people were buying things to decorate their homes. And so as the market changed and the shows became less and less to do because there was no interest. I mean, we'd go to a show and there'd be maybe 10 dealers in the room and we'd be all congested together because sometimes they would make it try and be big, but then you were like looking way, I think that person's way over on the other side of the building. So it was just, you know, it was sad to see the change. And we should have been paying attention
Yeah.
because that happened before. It happened in the 50s. I mean, it is what it is. It's a generational thing.
Do you think there's a component of progressivism that's involved in that?
Probably, probably.
Yeah. So you guys were still in California at this time, right?
Yeah, yeah. We went up and down the coast and did shows from Northern California to Southern California. We met a lot of great people, and our kids grew up in the business and they hate the business. They didn't want any part of it. I think
Wow.
I think because we worked too hard, you
Because
know.
I have some antiques, and my wife's like, because for my mom,
Uh-huh.
and unfortunately, from generation to generation, unless you're told what they are, you don't
Yeah,
really know what they are. And
yeah.
so, we have like an old China set. I don't know if it's a couple hundred years old or not. My wife's like, I wonder if we could sell this. And so we're like, well, how do you sell something, that you don't know it's worth? And really, ultimately, to me, it would seem that it's something is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
That is very correct. And the
So,
market is really down. What we would pay $100 for 15, 20 years ago. If
mhm.
you're lucky if you get half.
Wow.
Yeah, or less, So I
Mhm.
have a little Etsy store where I sell antiques and collectibles. And every time I put something online, I think I can hear Wayne's voice. I wouldn't put that price on it. What are you thinking? I would rather die than let that go for that price.
Oh, wow. That's
I
funny.
expect a bolt of lightning to hit me.
So you guys didn't have a garage full of stuff and storage units and all that?
No, we didn't have, we have a lot of stuff. Someone said, well, are you still shopping for antiques? And I'm like, no,
No.
I, yeah,
We're looking for buyers though.
we're looking for buyers. So anyway, and I don't mean to offend anybody but in Idaho, but the interest in antiques is not as strong as in Southern California. We had a massive audience, and
Mm.
here it's not as massive.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was, we had a shop downtown Emmett for a while.
Oh, you did. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. That
So
was
you so you guys were doing so what made you when you guys left San Francisco, you had your antique business and then at some point you ended up moving here. Why Idaho?
well, my older brother came here first and he really liked it. And then our son, when he got out of college, he majored in electronics and he applied to Micron and they, hired him. So he was up here in 2000. Mike was here, I think, 96. So they've been here a while. And so every time we came up, we went, oh, we should move. But we were trying to hold on to the business in Southern California.
Hmm.
And as 9/11 came along and the dwindling sales. I mean, we would set up for shows and not sell a lot of stuff. And it used to be so much fun,
Mhm.
we would sell and we'd buy, but now it was like we didn't sell. And so you had to pack up all that stuff you didn't sell
Ugh,
and then move on
gosh.
to the next show.
Right.
So, yeah, so we decided it was time to leave California. And when we lived very rural, we lived on 2.5 acres, little
Mhm.
town called Pinion Hills outside
Mhm.
of Victorville.
Wow.
And I was on a dirt road, mile in on a dirt road, real rocky. We'd go down the road in our vehicle with all the antiques in the back. And
Yeah.
it was a nice place to live until property values went up and it just changed. More people were coming in. It wasn't rural anymore. Our neighbors couldn't ride their horses anymore because there was just too many people. Just, they were putting homes in everywhere. It's kind of like what's happened here.
Yeah.
And
Middleton. Middleton has exploded.
yeah,
I live out here just outside of the city limits, and the multi-million dollar homes.
I know.
I mean, I don't know, there must have been some kind of memo. If you live in California, consider Middleton and then build a, $3 million home
I
just
know.
outside of the city limits. It's
I
insane.
know. I know. But that happened in California. I mean, we moved here in '05. So when property started to go way up high, and I told my neighbor, I said, we couldn't afford our homes right now in
Yeah.
California because it's just insane. And we had friends who were like, oh yeah, we just bought a home for 800,000, but we saw another one we really like, and that's like 900,000. So we're going to put the $800,000 one we just bought on the market and we're going to buy that. And it was like, but then when, the market fell in '08,
Yeah.
we had friends that lived in the neighborhood and almost every house in their neighborhood was in foreclosure.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was
That's
really
crazy.
something. But anyway, we moved here because we wanted a peaceful life, and we had that life for quite a while.
Hmm.
But it's changed here too. It's
Yeah.
traffic and all that.
Hmm.
So anyway,
What made you guys choose Emmett?
well, my brother lives here, and
Oh,
when he came, I think in '96, he couldn't find anything, and he found a little place that he bought, and he was going to have surgery, and we thought, oh, maybe we should stick close to him. And so we found this house, and we said, okay, let's buy that house because we know we can sell it and move to where we really want after Mike's, feeling better.
hmm.
Well, Mike didn't need our help at all, really. I mean, he's
Right.
very independent. So he's never been married and doesn't have a family. So he could take care of himself. He was like, I don't need your help.
Hmm.
Anyway, so the market fell. And so we realized buy, we couldn't sell
Yeah.
because we paid high because, we came in '05.
Yeah.
So there we were. But, I like Emmett. It's peaceful. I live in a nice neighborhood, nice people. So
Hmm.
I'm not, I'm gonna stay.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
Emmett's,
so
yeah. Emmett's, when you drive through Emmett, you think, wow, this place is pretty good.
yep.
And then it could still be pretty good, but then you start looking at the underbelly, as we'll get into in a sec. And like everybody else, it's like, well, wait a minute. So I think the cool thing though is that in talking to you, you're obviously a regular human being. You don't, have horns coming out of your head, and you're not saying anything in any sort of extreme capacity. You just really felt like it was time to move. You moved, you enjoyed a peaceful life, and all of a sudden, you know, things became less peaceful as they commonly do over
Yep.
time. And so the next question was, and I can't even remember when we met, but I do remember, I do remember meeting. Um, so when you guys moved here and you had your, peaceful life going on and all that, what made you guys get politically involved, do you think?
Well, I was listening to Kevin Miller one morning. Wayne and
Ah,
I were listening. And do you know Bo Burke?
I do.
Yeah,
Very
Monty
well.
Pierce's, yeah,
Uh-huh.
sister. So she called in and was talking to Kevin about something. And Kevin said, "So when are you going to start a tea party?" She said, "Oh, I just don't have time." And I thought, Wayne and I both went, "We have time."
Oh, there you go.
So I got in touch with Tea Party Bob. And the
Ah,
next thing we started having meetings, like a informational meeting. Is anybody interested in being part of a tea party? Can you hang on 1 minute? I need a Kleenex.
for sure.
Okay. So anyway, Tea Party Bob and Russ came out, Russ Mers, and
Eh,
they helped us through and they gave us a lot of good advice. And that was the start of it. And most of our members, I'd say 95% of them were from California.
yeah.
And they
Well, they,
didn't want to see Idaho change.
well, it's funny. I was talking to a guy this morning at the watch shop, and he said, "You know, Tom, I figured something out." He says, "I think many of us are more conservative than the people that were born here."
Yeah.
You know, and it was kind of funny when he said that because I agreed with it, to some degree. I don't like the cars and the homes and, taxes and all that kind of stuff, of course, but um, I was really floored by that. And I immediately thought of the line that we get every election season. Well, I'm a fifth generation Idahoan, and he's got his cowboy hat
Oh
on.
yeah.
And I thought, oh yeah, if people are still buying that line,
I know.
I just got to tell you, there's a house in the Bay Area I'd like to sell you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really.
So, so what was so you joined did you start a tea party? Were you in?
Yeah, we started Tea Party Gem County.
Nice.
And I was trying to figure out when that was. I think it was '09. It was shortly after we saw Pete Santelli. Was that
Yeah.
his first name? Talking about, hey, there should be a tea party.
Uh,
Stop this crazy stuff.
yeah.
And we thought, that'd be good. So yeah, that's what we did.
Were you, so the tea parties were, uh, that's an acronym, right? If I remember right, for taxed enough
Oh,
already, right?
yeah, yeah.
Was there anything, because I attended meetings and stuff. I never led a tea party group, but were they all related to, did they use the acronym or did they all adhere to a certain outline? Was there any sort of concerted um,
We,
communication plan between the tea party groups?
nope. It was
It,
just whatever you want to do. I mean, we weren't affiliated with anybody. We
right,
were independent, which means we didn't have a bank account. It was all donations.
right,
We incorporated because we didn't want to have the IRS stop us from doing anything, as they did
right,
with some tea parties.
for sure.
And so we just started doing different kind of meetings. We had speakers come in. We had Wayne Hoffman come in. We had Jason Casella that talked about the NDAA.
I remember that.
We had people talk about Agenda 21.
21.
Yeah. We had Craig, um, a Second Amendment
Right.
association, yeah. And so we had a lot of people, and we did a lot of stuff, and we were doing all these meetings, and there was an election coming along, and one of our members said, so and so, I won't say the woman's name because she still lives in Emmett,
Mhm.
is going to run for commissioner, county commissioner. And he said she's
Bad news.
not a conservative.
Uh-huh.
And so the next thing he said, I have this idea. And the next thing we knew, we had signs printed up with a big circle and an X, a line across it like that, and had her name on it saying, we don't, no, we don't want to elect you. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, and so that was one thing we did. We managed to defeat her at the poll. She didn't get elected.
Oh, success.
And
Good.
we worked really hard to get Russ Fulcher elected governor. We
Hmm.
didn't make it, but we tried. And here in Gem County, that's really hard to do because Brad Little lives here.
Right. Oh, he
So,
does.
yeah, he
I
lives.
didn't know that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
His family goes way back.
Yeah. Huh.
So yeah.
Well, that gives me a whole new. No, I'm kidding. Like, wow, now that we know where he lives, we can have a little fun with that. Uh,
Yeah.
wow,
So
that's really good. That's really good that you guys had success. So how big did your group get?
we had about 100 members at one time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
So
did that last a while? So one of the things I
well,
get to in talking to folks is the concern about liberty groups when they grow, they might stabilize for a while and then they typically drop. And I'm
yeah,
very
we did.
interested in learning about how big your group got, not out of disrespect or anything, just looking at numbers. So there was a genuine interest in joining this enough for you
Hmm.
guys for Emmett to get 100 people, right?
Yeah.
And good regular people like you, right?
Yep. Regular people like me.
Yeah.
Great
Wow.
for us.
And then so then so when do you think it started declining?
Oh, you know, I think people got comfortable with the way things were or became,
Hmm.
and it just, yeah, I think, I don't know, it just stopped all of a sudden. And no matter how hard we tried to generate interest, we couldn't get interest going. I mean, there's only so many times you can talk about Common Core. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many. It's like we try to encourage people. You got to go to the school board meetings. You got to see what they're doing.
Hmm.
You need to be involved. But most people didn't. I don't know. I sometimes think it's like people say, well, someone should do something about that. Well, they don't mean them, they mean you when they say,
Exactly.
so
Yeah, that's
everybody had
exactly right.
advice on what we should do. But
Yes. I had in my in my part of the activism, I didn't lead a group at all. I just kind of floated around all of the different groups because I just kind of
yep,
felt like a square peg in a round hole. But it was
yeah,
great meeting good people. I mean, networking was the best part of that. And then I got hired by the John Birch Society, and it was very difficult. You know, we had the reputation issue, people's assumptions about who the group was.
right.
Oh, you guys are kooky conspiracy nutballs and all that. So membership was a very small percentage of people,
Mhm.
and over time it became smaller.
So,
And as it became smaller, I became more concerned because I desired to know, I wanted to know why. I wanted to know the whys and wherefores. I'm looking around, all the liberty groups are growing, right? People's rights was the same way. It grew exponentially. And then, you just wait for it and stuff just starts to go away and then they're gone.
mm,
And I was very concerned because I had to know why. So I would call some of my members that weren't members anymore because they just didn't want to support the organization anymore. And it was the funniest thing. I couldn't get very few of them to return my call. They
ah,
just pretended like once they were done, I mean, I'd been friends. It'd be like you and me. It would be like you being a member for 3 years and us communicating, 3, 4 times a year, seeing each other in person, whatever, feeling like we had some kind of relationship. And then I call you just to see how things are going, and all of a sudden you're just not returning my call.
right.
And I thought, wow, I'm really concerned about this because my desire was to be able to communicate with people. And if they didn't want to be members, that's fine. Maybe they thought I was gonna, I was gonna yank money out of them or something. But as leaders of organizations, I found that communication was really important. If you are not telling me, you know, uh, what you feel like needs to be done, then I have no idea about why people are leaving. And
Yeah,
after 11 years, I had to leave it up to people are just people. They have
yeah.
different reasons for doing what they want to do, and they don't want to tell you. People
Mhm.
don't like to be held accountable. Number one, I know that for sure. But people don't want to have to answer for the things that they do, and it's difficult to be able to get anything greater when you start experiencing these dwindling of numbers. Oh, I'm too busy. I got family. I got church. We
Yeah,
understand those, right?
right.
But but the families and the churches existed when you were really active too.
Yeah.
So I was very disturbed by that. I started seeing the tea parties drop, and I started seeing, and then Russ and I talked, and we thought about, well, let's try to revamp this thing and see if we can get at least the leadership council together to be able to
Right.
start figuring out a direction. And then
Mhm.
years later, I end up doing what I'm doing now, which I think is going to satisfy some of those needs. If successful, is going to be satisfying some of those needs that I think that we were all looking for. One of the big things for me was the number one complaint was, why can't we all get on the same page? You know,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely right when you say, the people aren't interested in what they can do. They just want to tell you what you can do. And it's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, do I look like the do I like look like the only person here, or are there like 100 people, right? And so you can do whatever you want. You can stand in front of city council, or Jason, I remember him standing in front of city council talking about the NDAA and stuff. But if you're only one or two people, how do you imagine that you're going to be successful in any way, shape, or form? And then the 100 people that you're looking around there are going to back you up aren't even there.
Well, we did have a small core group of about 15 people.
Oh,
It
good.
doesn't really take a lot. It's
Mm-mm.
just having those people, those 15 people, really helped ease some of the time constraints because we were still traveling when we were doing all this. So it worked out with these 15 people. I mean, it was a group effort. I'm eternally grateful to the people that stepped up and handed out flyers and did a lot of background stuff to get it all to work. I mean, so
Yeah, it's true.
yeah,
It's true.
so that was yeah.
Yeah, I had a core. I think we all have a core. It's like church, I guess. All the churches I've been to, there's always two or three families, and that's it.
Yeah.
Everybody else comes to eat,
Yeah,
and
that's
nobody wants
true.
to do anything. Comes to setting up, nobody's interested.
Yeah.
Coming to eat, everybody's interested.
Yeah.
Coming to
Come
tear
for the
down, nobody's.
coffee.
I know.
Sunday morning, come for the
Yeah,
coffee.
yeah. I mean, now that understanding human nature, it doesn't make it any. I guess it might make it a little easier. It
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily negate the urgency, if you will, for us. Um, the other concern I had was in election years. We always experienced a tremendous drop in election years
I
because the
know.
money that would go to our organization would go to voting Republican. Um, and that was really interesting because, people are putting all the money behind the man, and meanwhile, the issues are not even being dealt with, right? I mean, who was talking about the NDAA? Jason was the only one. I think he referred me to some guy in California too, but um, a panda, I think. But
Hmm.
he was the only one that was talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt
Yeah.
like I was the only one talking about Agenda 21 in the UN, and nobody's interested in that. People still aren't interested in it, and they're building 15-minute cities.
I know. I know. Ugh.
So, well, so are you still active there in Emmett now?
No, I'm really when people mention we should get the Tea Party going again, I get really tired because it was a lot of effort and a lot of work. And things have changed. Not the same people are in positions. I mean, I do know people, but there's a group of people that moved from California and they ran for office last time for
Mm,
commissioner and they didn't win and because they're from California and people don't want to give them a chance because but then you keep electing the same people
uh-huh,
you still have the same problems. And then like a friend of mine said, well, we need to vote these people out. And I'm like, but you just voted them in
uh-huh,
because you still told me you wouldn't vote for the California people.
mhm.
You don't want Californians, but you keep voting for the same people. I
Yeah.
just, and it's just,
You know,
and
every it's so funny. Every interview I've had, well, when I first moved here in 91, I had realized something. People had this "Don't Californicate Idaho" stickers on their car and all that. And the
yeah,
cop pulled me over, because I had my blue license plate with yellow letters, and he's like, "I'm pulling you over as a warning. Get your license plate changed." And I
yeah,
thought, where the heck did I just move? What is happening to me?
I know.
So, but But I think maybe we touched on it earlier is that the most of the people that hated people from California that I found out were actually from California.
Yeah.
So when I say I had a problem with Californians, I moved here from San Bernardino in
Yep.
91, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm meeting other people that have "Don't Californicate Idaho" stickers on their car, and they moved from California in 79,
Right.
right? And so I
Yeah.
rarely hear from anybody that actually is born here that actually has that kind of concern. And according to Phil McGrain lately, if you read his blog post, he talked about how conservative Californians are. And I don't know that that's necessarily accurate because there's a logistical challenge and a worldview challenge when you live in different states, like when you live in different countries, right? So
Yeah.
some people will say, "Well, I'm super conservative," and I'm like, "What does that mean to you?" And they're like, "Well, gosh, Idaho's beautiful. And there's really nothing wrong in Idaho." I'm like, "Well, then you ain't conservative enough,"
Yeah.
right?
It's true. I think one of the things we were so amazed at is the people are conservative, but the legislature is not.
Mm-hmm. And
And
many
we're
of
the
them are from here, are they
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
a fifth generation Idahoan. I wear a
Yeah.
cowboy hat, and
Yeah.
I'm a rhino,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
whatever.
I was just floored. I mean, I was like, oh, what? How
Hmm.
can you not be for liberty and, you know, all the good things that in life that you espouse here because you live in the great state of Idaho? But yeah, vote liberal.
Yeah,
I just,
I know it. I know it. Well, as we come around the turn here, I have some odd questions. Maybe I feel like they're kind of odd, but maybe
yeah.
thought provoking. I don't know. If you were to, well, I wanted to get into to Wayne first.
Mhm.
Um, and I know that's a pretty touchy subject for you. Can you tell us about Wayne a little bit?
He had a strong, he was a pretty humble guy, and he didn't like injustice. If he thought there was a wrong, he'd want to correct it. Um, he was just, he was a good man. He loved his family. Um, yeah, he's missed. He's missed because he was quite a talker. I mean, you'd be going 3 hours if he were sitting next to me because he talked.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was in the military. Um, he was in the Navy, he was in Vietnam. He was proud of his service, proud of being an air traffic controller, and he was good at that. And it was hard. He got fired because we took a stand, and
Jeez.
Reagan said, "Oh, you're fired." And we heard that he was supposed to say, "You may be fired."
Hmm.
But when he said fired, his staff went, "Oh my God." They were running around trying to figure out what they were going to do. So
And
12,000,
this is during the Reagan administration.
yeah, 81.
So what did he say, or what kind of actions
Well, you're
warranted
not
that kind?
supposed to strike if you are a government employee. It's illegal. But the post office had gone on strike shortly before
Oh,
we did. But the controllers wanted better equipment because they were still using Korean War equipment.
oh my.
And they had computers in 81, but they weren't very stable. And so they would go down. And the guys would have to take their Korean War scopes, lay them flat and put little shrimp boats out to control traffic. They had to remember in their head where the traffic was. And that could happen once or twice a day. And I could always tell when he had a difficult day because he came home smelling a cigarette smoke because they could smoke in the in the control room. He worked in a en route facility. He never worked in a tower.
Mhm.
So an en route facility is between the tower and what was it called? The Tracon is like before the airport, and then the controllers in an en route facility. He had an area. He did the Area 51. He did from San Diego, I think, all the way to Yuma. Nevada. So he had a great time being a controller.
I heard
So,
it's really stressful though. So he must have had
oh,
the temperament to be able to handle that.
well,
Nah.
I think it would have taken a toll
Yeah,
eventually because most guys didn't make it past 10 years because of the stress.
yeah.
And he would come home and he told me one time a guy died right there on the scope. He just fell over.
Oh,
He was gone because it is a lot of stress,
yeah, I bet.
but anyway, well, I don't know what else to say.
Right. No, it's fine. So how long were you guys married?
51 years.
51
I
years.
know.
That's amazing.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It
We,
is.
well, you got some good memories anyway,
Oh, I have great
right?
memories. Yeah, I wouldn't trade any of it. I mean, even the controller stuff. I mean, that was just we we became different people because
Yeah.
of that. If we had stayed, I don't think I would have liked the people we would have been because
Yeah.
to see us becoming like everybody where it's all about the money. It was the
Mhm.
home you lived in. It was how much money you made.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I
Yeah.
have to ask you, I mean, this is kind of a out of the air question, but I mean, 51 years is a long time. You rarely meet anybody that's been married 51 years.
I know.
Are you in a position to maybe offer a little advice for people that are striving to make it that far?
Well, I guess looking back, I realized, we don't learn, I never learned how to give grace. Like sometimes we would have, couples do, you have stupid arguments. And sometimes it's not worth it to be right.
Hmm.
Give the grace and move on because you're a couple, you're working together.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
think
that.
I think I'm learning just to, you know, because I mean, we're not immune from all that too, right? And
Right.
yeah, so the older I get, I think the more grace I think I can offer, and
Yeah,
I may do it with a little bit of a tongue in cheek just to kind of
right.
make it go down a little easier. But
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think we were talking about Tupperware this morning, and he's got Tupperware everywhere. I'm like, and I leave it on the counter when I wash it. I'm sure my wife will love me talking about it, but I told her, I said, if you get, she doesn't like it left on the counter because she doesn't want to put it away, and I said, well, if you give me full control over the ability to put that wherever I want, you'll never have to put it away again. So that's the trade, right? So
yeah.
that was our tongue in cheek on the way this morning. But anyway, sorry. So so when you go through and you think about the interest in your country, which is obvious, and wanes and things, um, and we hope to gain viewers to interviews like this one, if you had a message to be able to send to people that are just moving here, that are just becoming politically active, or people that have been politically active a long time, that you feel like need to hear from you, what would you tell them?
Never give up. I mean, you're going to have the ups and downs when you get involved politically. You're going to have, where things go good, and then all of a sudden you can't get any traction, and you've got to stay the course. It's if you believe in what you believe, stick with it.
Yeah.
I and it's hard sometimes to go against the grain to I we kind of got involved with the environmentalists because the gas and oil companies came into Emmett and they were doing exploring to see if there was oil and gas in Emmett. And there's not because we don't have the right strata. They do over in Payette and they started pumping there.
Mhm.
But here, the county commissioners said, okay, well, if we're going to have gas and oil come in, we need to have um, an ordinance. So we started going to the meetings. They were once a week at the courthouse, and we were hashing out this ordinance for gas and oil. Well, there's not much you can do to stop gas and oil from coming in.
Mhm.
Once they come in and they find you have gas and oil, they take over.
Mhm.
And it's just the way the law is written. And our governor Otter said, Well, when they drill, they don't go through they go below the aquifer, so it shouldn't cause any damage. And we're like, but
You
you
have to
got
get
to drill through the
through
aquifer.
the aquifer.
And so when we got involved in gas and oil, and we were, there were other people around that were challenging it also, and they were environmentalists. And we had a meeting at our house. And one guy said, well, it's been decided and it's been confirmed. Global warming is true.
Oh no.
It's a settled science. And
Right.
one person Wayne wasn't feeling good that day. He didn't say anything, but he was there. And one person in the room said, I don't think so, which was me. And that put the kibosh on us working with the
Oh
environmentalists.
no.
Yeah, which was okay because they they're a tough crowd. I always think as a conservative, we're open to other people and their views and we
Mhm.
listen.
Yeah.
But those on the left, boy, you cannot challenge them. They,
Yeah.
I don't know, they don't
No
have
matter how
all,
much evidence you provide, and no
yeah,
matter how much common sense and consistency that you offer, it's Trump's fault, right? I mean,
oh yeah, yeah,
or it's
yeah,
climate change. Everything's climate change.
climate change, yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, and when I said, no, I don't think that's right, the room got very, very quiet.
Wow.
Some of them kind of looked at me like, oh, you poor thing.
The, it's gotta hurt to be that dumb. Right. I still get that. Well,
Yeah.
when you ended up sort of pulling away from your political involvement in Emmett,
Mhm.
um, what kind of issues were you battling with? And to your knowledge, are there issues in Emmett now? And are you aware of what they are?
Oh, yes, because you know how people are and they complain on social media. Well, those commissioners, they're corrupt. And it's like, how do you know they're corrupt? How could they? What are you talking about?
Hmm.
And they get mixed up between the county and the city and who
Hmm.
does what. And it's like you keep, uh, just-
Yeah.
so that's it kind of, it's like you're not moving forward. You got to go back and explain the rudimentary things to people, and then you can go forward, maybe. But then you get people the know-it-alls, they know
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
So, and they want to barrel in and go down and confront those commissioners and tell them what they think. And I'm like, but wait a minute, you don't have all the facts. You don't
Yeah.
know how things work. You gotta
Yeah.
step back. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I've
My
been
one,
invited to a few things, and I'm like, I'm not sure I want to get involved at this point.
yeah, I realized that because I used to carry a pitchfork and a big 2x4
Yeah.
and I believed it was I call it a process of maturity, but um at first I remember when I got involved I blamed everybody, you know,
Yeah.
at the government. I blamed law enforcement. I blamed everybody. But I didn't blame the people.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting about that is you hear it all the time. We've got corrupt politicians, we've got corrupt this, and they're putting money in their pockets and blah, blah, blah. And it's always the politicians or the attorneys or, whatever. And it's not that they're the guiltless, but one of the things that I had found, it was an epiphany one day. I thought, wait a minute, these people are, for the most part, are that I'm talking about, are elected into office.
Mhm.
So if the politicians are corrupt and you voted in a corrupt politician, it's not the politician's fault. It's your fault.
Right.
You didn't
Right.
know enough about the person that you voted for to be able to make a good decision, which goes back to what we always talk about in the movement about being educated on the
Yeah.
issues and who people are and understanding what questions to ask. Because like I do, how many times have you heard, well, I don't know who you are running for office, but do you support the Second Amendment? Well, that's
Yeah.
all I need to know. Thank you very much. And I thought,
Well, wait a minute.
there's a
Wait
few
a minute.
more amendments. Number one, It's like,
Yeah.
and and
Well,
and then there's the idea of separation between the feds and the state, and people got that all confused as I did when I was starting out,
yeah.
and all that. So, are there people that are active in Emmett now?
Yeah, there are. I've been to a couple meetings. They wanted, someone wanted to put a gravel pit on their property. And the property sits not too far off of Washington Boulevard. So
Mhm.
we would be having gravel trucks come off of Sunset onto Washington, and there would be 16 trucks a day
Ugh.
going back and forth. Well, the county commissioners or the zoning just, I wouldn't allow it. They said, sorry, but it's going to be a lot of issues for the community and we can't let you do it. And there was about, I'd say about 200 people that went to the meeting to listen to the zoning commission, and these people make their plea and they were turned down. So yeah, the community really went out, all out. And it wasn't, a lot of people were like, hey, I live across town. It's not going to affect me until I get on the highway.
Then you get all those
So
windshields you got to break that are going to be broken.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just insane.
Well,
So
it's important that we bring that up because people have this sort of boohoo mentality now. I mean, I don't think
mhm,
we ever thought of that when we were involved, and we
no,
just kind of went forward and go forth and conquer kind of an attitude. But
yeah, I know.
you
We
know,
were like,
people
yeah,
people are like, well, there's nothing you can do now. The government's what it is, and I mean, in other words, the people are the people, and they're not going to change, right?
right.
Um, but what was clear to me is you just had a success that you were talking about with the gravel trucks. And if, as you may recall, Caldwell, not too long ago, had beat the parking meter issue.
Ah,
So Caldwell,
yeah.
being bankrupt, which I found out directly from a source that's in
Mm,
the city,
yeah.
basically said that they're bankrupt and they needed to find a way to generate income. And so they basically said, well, we have a people problem, we don't have a parking problem, and we believe the best way to alleviate that is to be able to make those people that park there have to pay for it. I'm like, it doesn't change the I mean, the people in the Caldwell City Council are some of the most arrogant and ignorant, well-intended people, I will say. So I have to give them that sort of the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But I
Mhm.
have never ever been as disrespected anywhere as I have there. And I gave my own, 3-minute speech that was completely interrupted by one of the council ladies um, about talking from principle about double taxation and the fact that you're going to whack the taxpayers, to be able to purchase the meters. Then you're going to whack the taxpayers for penalties for not paying the meters, and then you're going to have to make the people that work, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And the most amazing thing happened. I did a walk through the city, and I found out nobody liked it, and I was so happy about that.
Yeah.
And the people rose up on their own. They fought against it. They told the city there's no way. They already had these things screwed in and on by the time they had them removed.
Wow.
And
That's
so my point in saying that, whether it's your area or whether it's mine, success can be had, right?
yeah.
As long as there are people that are tireless enough in their efforts to be able to consistently stand against that issue, right?
Right.
So there's hope no matter what we do for
Mhm.
these things to change, but that amount of hope actually is determined by the diligence of the people, wouldn't you say?
Yep. The diligence of the people. Um, we went to a school board meeting and Wayne was totally disrespected because he didn't realize, they told him, well, you can't speak about that issue that you're concerned about. We're only going to talk about what's on the agenda. And so he started asking other questions and they were just so disrespectful. And, and he'd ask a question and all the teachers who were sitting on one side laughed.
Oh my
So
gosh.
the next meeting we go to, and one of the ladies on the school board came over and she was the liberal on the board. she apologized for their bad behavior. She said, "You weren't treated very nicely, and I apologize." And we were floored. We were floored
Wow.
because we had the arrogance of these teachers and, you know,
Yeah.
and the school board. It was at the time. I don't know what it's like now, so I, don't want to call
Oh,
me.
it's much better now, Jen.
I'm sure it's not.
No, I'm sure it's not too.
Yeah. But it was just, I mean, of all the people that we thought would apologize or would even think of it, we didn't expect that person to do that. It was really nice of her to step up,
Right.
you know.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
as we finish up here, if people are interested in the goings on in Emmett or want to get involved in the things that are going on in Emmett, is there a place that you can direct them, whether it's a Facebook page, a calendar, anything?
Well,
And I'm not putting you on the spot. If you don't know, you don't know.
no, I'm just trying to think of all the social media stuff. It's mostly about the community, is the highway closed? I mean, when is this opening up? When's that? And there is no political group that I know of on social media. We
But
used to be on with the Tea Party
right.
and grassroots Southwest Idaho, but very little interest in that. And I'm not on Facebook anymore. I let it all go.
Good
So,
for you. So, but there is a group, right?
well, they're a very loose group. If somebody wants to contact me, I can put them in touch with the group.
Okay. Because I'd love for you to do that. We can communicate afterwards, unless
Yeah.
you want to go public with it. But I have a resource page on Idaho Ripple Effect. There's also a repository for documentation that should be uploaded that
Okay.
won't be removed. But the resource page, I want, as we create this network, this statewide networking hub, is to be able to give people the information they're looking for, certain tidbits for, the legislature, how to contact, how to look at an agenda, how to do this or that.
Right.
But what I want to do is I want to find somebody that I can communicate with in every community around the state. That way, if people are interested in getting involved in their particular community, that I have the contact information to make
Right.
that happen. So if you have any resources that you could share with me, maybe you could email me those or phone
Okay.
numbers or whatever, and I can upload those to the site and people can connect that way. The idea is to, to fight the decrease in numbers, but with the people moving here by informing people of all the options that are available. And I'm hoping
Right.
it helps. It sounds like to me like it's a good idea, but the idea is mine. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, it's hard to get people to commit to anything. It's just really, I mean, there is a small group and they're grassroots and they're trying,
mhm.
but the lady that leads it is very, she's like I don't want to say a bull in a china shop, but it's like she wants to barrel through everything. And sometimes I think, you need to go in to talk to people and not yell at them.
Yeah, you kind of got to do that.
Yeah,
It took me, that was a hard lesson for me to learn, man. I mean, I was,
I know.
anyway. Well,
Oh,
Jan,
yeah.
it was great to talk to you.
You well, good
You,
talking to you,
you
Tom. And
look like you're doing well, and our heart goes out to, Wayne,
Mm,
our prayers are with you and stuff. And
thank you.
you guys were amazing. Every time I went to Emmett, I got to see you guys in action.
Yeah,
And I remember you and I remember him and I remember Jason, and
yeah.
forgive me for not remembering anybody else, but uh, it was always great to be able to see you and for you guys to even remember me. That was humbling for me. So thank
Oh,
you.
well, you came and you recorded a couple of meetings for us, so we were grateful for that. And yeah, it
I think I
was,
still have those videos too, by the way, somewhere.
yeah, I think they might be on YouTube.
Oh, that's
I
good. That'd
think,
be really good.
yeah, yeah, and it was a lot of fun. It was, Stephen Thane was our, I want to say assemblyman, but
Senator, yeah,
yeah, representative. Mm. We, we, yeah, we butted heads on a lot of things.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our group and him and yeah, and the central committee here in Emmett, the Republicans, they weren't real happy with us Tea Party people. So yeah,
No,
because
no,
I
I think
was.
We're called extremists now. And
I never understood how you could be an extremist if you were on the side of Patrick Henry and George Washington. What do you mean extreme?
well, they've just kind of redefined the liberal ideology
Yeah.
and decided to
Yes,
include some of the Republicans, right?
I know. I
Yeah,
know.
cool. Well, I'm
Mhm.
gonna let you go.
Okay.
And God bless you guys, and thank you
Yeah,
so
you
much for your
too.
time, man. I mean, your contribution hopefully will never be forgotten. I know I won't.
Oh, well, thank
So
you. I appreciate it. And yours too,
thank you.
Put yourself in there too.
All right. Hopefully, I'll chat again with you before too long.
All right, sounds good, Tom.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.